This is the Less Insurance Dependence podcast show with my good friend Gary Takas and myself, Narain Arul Raja.
We appreciate your listenership, your time, and most of all, we appreciate your intention to reduce insurance dependence in your practice. Our goal is to provide information that will help you successfully reduce insurance dependence and convert your practice into a thriving and profitable dental practice that provides you with personal, professional, and financial satisfaction.
Welcome to the Less Insurance Dependence podcast. I'm your host, Lester D. Alvis. This show is all about helping dentists take control of their practice, reduce stress, and build something that works for them, not for insurance companies. So now, before we get into today's topic, let me ask you a quick question. If your practice relied less on insurance, would you be attracting the kind of patients you actually want to treat? That's where the right marketing makes a big difference. So a big shout out to the sponsors of this episode, that is Ekwa Marketing. Ekwa Marketing helps dental practices attract high quality patients consistently, so your growth does not depend on insurance plans. So if that's something you've been thinking about, you can take the first step by scheduling a complimentary marketing strategy meeting by visiting thelessinsurancependence.com. Now, let's get into today's episode. I'm excited to welcome Melinda Hereford. Melinda brings deep insight into why dentists feel stuck and what it really takes to move forward. She has worked with teams and leaders to help them break through the patterns that keeps practices dependent on insurance. And today's episode is titled Why Dentists Stay Stuck in Insurance and How to Break Free. Melinda, we're so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. It's so great to be here, Lester. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So let's start with the beginning. What is the real reason dentists stay stuck in insurance dependence even when they want to move away?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, right? Because I think burnout for dentists is at an all-time high. You hear about it a lot. Lester, you've probably been hearing about that. And I think this contributes, right? And when I think about being stuck in insurance, I notice that really it's not really about the insurance. It's really about clarity and a fear of execution. A lack of clarity and a fear of execution. So when dentists are chugging along in their practice, Lester, we call this the whirlwind, right? That's like patient after patient after patient, and patients fall out of the schedule, and you have to be busy getting patients back in the schedule. And really, the truth is, day after day, we could just be busy with just taking care of one patient after another. But the difficulty with that, Lester, is that then we're just kind of stuck on a circle, right? Just circling around, doing the same thing over and over again. So when dentists don't have a clear goal or a destination where they're headed, and their systems aren't defined for effectiveness and profitability, then really that makes it so that the team, we hire team member after team member, and we're just like, come in, do the job, right? And so really then everyone's stuck in the whirlwind. And so when it's like that, Lester, everything is reactive, right? We're just reacting to the day to day to day. And so a dentist could spend their whole career in that place. And the difficulty is that does lead to burnout. You can imagine why, right? Because it's like you're just in a grind, basically the grind of, wake up, see a patient, drill the patient, fill the patient, bill the patient, and that's it, patient after patient. And so, I think that stuckness leads to just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then the fear, brings up fears, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think when you mentioned about doing the same thing over and over again, it pictured me an image of like a hamster on the wheel. They
Yeah.
keep doing the same thing over and over again. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead. You wanted to say
Yeah,
something?
I just wanted to say, Jim Collins, we all know that book, Good to Great. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's a
Mm-hmm.
business, even the dentists know it. When the dentists are
Yeah.
trained in dentistry, they know that book, Good to Great. Jim Collins wrote this great book. And what makes good companies great is that they have
Mm.
they have clarity. We call it the WIG, the wildly important goal. He called it the BHAG. And so, there's this idea of one important goal. And then the other thing Jim Collins shares with us is if we have more than 3 priorities, we have no priorities. So you can see,
Mm.
if we're hanging out in the whirlwind and we're doing on the hamster wheel, doing day after day, then that is a bad feeling. Right.
Yeah.
That really, you could see the alarm clock goes off. And I can't even tell you the number of the dentists that tell me this when I first meet them, Lester. The alarm
Mm-hmm.
clock goes off and they do not want to go to work. They don't want to go to work. I know. After all
Mm.
that training and all that stuff, they don't want to go to work. So, so clarity about where you're heading really is like a primary piece for not being stuck, but it's also a primary piece for not being so dang dependent on those insurances. It wasn't meant to be
Mm-hmm.
that way anyway. I don't even know how we got
Yeah.
here.
Exactly. And you also touched about the fears. So what fears or misconceptions, or this could be even myths, hold dentists back from taking that first step towards independence?
Yeah. So I think they really worry about, like, the biggest fear is if I make this change, I'm going to lose
Mm-hmm.
all my patients.
Mm.
And, there's this knee jerk reaction that to
Mm.
stay busy, I need more insurance. I mean, I had a client the other day. He wanted to be busier. He signed up with some PPOs. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that's one way, right? Is it the only way? And so, the other thing is they don't feel like they're worried that their team can't handle the conversations because, Lester, when we go into insurance independence, we get to stand in the dentistry. And not
Mm.
all team members have been trained to, the first thing that they say when you bring a treatment plan up front is your insurance covers X, right? That's the first thing they say. So if there's anything you get out of this, this podcast, go back tomorrow to your practice and like get that dialogue out, right? We no longer start with your insurance covers. We start with what are the conditions we're treating and how are we going to help those teeth get better? So, it's these fears though, Lester. If I drop insurance, all my patients are going to leave, my team can't handle it. It isn't the right time. It's easy to find the excuses,
Mm-hmm.
but really the truth is there's a loss of control and predictability that is known. And if you step back from that, really,
Mm-hmm.
there's already a bunch of a loss of control, like scheduling swings. We have massive write-offs. We have inconsistent collections, right? There's really a lot of bad, difficult things that happen because we have insurance, right? We're dependent on
Yeah.
insurance. So
Exactly.
it's that thing that we talk about, Lester, what's familiar. We kind of hang in what's familiar because what's unfamiliar
Mm.
seems too scary. And I think this is what it is for dentists. It's like that is too scary to take that step into less dependence.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Now, talking about team dynamics, how do team dynamics and communication impact a practice's ability to successfully reduce insurance reliance?
Yeah, it is it's such a good question, Lester, because it
Mm-hmm.
makes a big difference, right? That
Yeah.
when the team's all in. So I think you can say a team is going to accelerate the growth of this or the desire to make this happen, or they're going to
Mm-hmm.
anchor the practice in place. And so if the roles are unclear and the conversations are inconsistent, it's going to affect the team dynamics in making this shift. If accountability is not existent or weak, systems get stuck. They don't it's hard to move forward. If there's no accountability, then we're going to go back to what we know. And if the team lacks confidence, and I think this is the biggest thing that I see, Lester, when the team lacks confidence, case acceptance drops. And so when, that, I think that's why they start with your insurance covers, because it's they're afraid that it's too much money. They're afraid of a bunch of things. And so, building your team's confidence is so important. But, I think a doctor and a manager's success really is based on what our team actually does with the patients, right? And it's not really all what the doctor does in the operatory. It is every conversation we're having with each patient. And so when the teams align, patients hear that consistent message, and we're building value. We're talking about conditions. We're talking about what we see, and that value gets communicated clearly. So this is my most passionate piece about it, Lester. It's our job to go back to the dentistry. Let's talk about the dentistry. Let's talk about the teeth. Let's talk about the conditions that we see, because that treatment acceptance starts there, right? And treatment acceptance rises when we build value for the care. And so it's not about the money, right? So it's really about, we're not really transitioning away from insurance alone. We're actually building value for what we see. And the team can either make it or break it based on how well they're trained.
Yeah, the team plays a big role.
Huge.
So what systems or mindset shifts are required for a practice to confidently move towards an independent model?
Yeah. This is the hidden piece, Lester. I'm a systems gal. I train systems. I love it when everybody is aligned around systems and we're all doing the same thing. But systems are only as good as the beliefs that we hold in our mind, right? So belief systems and mindsets are huge. And so this is this is why I'm glad you're doing this podcast, because this helps kind of doctors see those hidden beliefs, because one of the mindset shifts is we're going from I got to have all these patients from volume to value, from volume of patients to value of care, and from all the procedures that we do really to what are the conditions that we see. What are we worried about? What are we concerned about? And what's going to happen if we don't do anything about it? And then a mind, so you see how we're shifting from, okay, I got to do all these things, or this is what you need, Lester. You need a crown. No, there's active decay. And the sooner we treat that active decay, the better off that tooth is going to be. So you see how that's so different? So that's value, that's conditions. And we go from I got to be busy to productive. And so this is one of those pieces that, it's you could see 20 patients a day, or you could see 5. What would you rather do? And this is the beauty of making this shift. And it's not just insurance dependent. It's really shifting to a better managed practice. And then this mind shift of, I got to control everything, to my team's accountable. And we really are all focused on the same thing and holding ourselves accountable. So there are specific systems that are required to make it happen, right? And the systems that make it happen. So this is kind of our zone of genius, which is we insist on a wildly important goal, not 20, one clear target. And then we have what we call MITs, Lester, and those are most important things. So every team member has 2 to 3 actions to get to that wildly important goal. And we schedule to goal. And that's really why we go from 20 patients to 5, because when we schedule the goal, it's a genius, right? It's a way of scheduling. It's not like we're throwing all the patients in there and it's just about being busy. It's not about being busy. It's about being productive. And any doctor will want to see 5, not 20, typically, right? I mean, what would you say, Lester? Would you rather see 20 or 5? And produce
5,
more? Yeah, 5 is better,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And then a system that's critical that we're talking about here is what we call our getting to yes system. It's our case acceptance system. And so really you got to tighten up on that case acceptance system, because everything we say to the patient either leads to them saying yes to the care and being connected to it for themselves, or saying no. I don't want to do it right now. So getting to yes is critical. And then if we don't measure our success, Lester, we're in the hinterland. We think we're working hard. I mean, if you ask anyone, they're working hard, but we're working hard to what effort? And so when we measure what we're doing, then we can go, okay, what's working and what's not working, and what do we need to dial in? And so we call that, once we measure it, we have a weekly accountability cadence where everybody gets to see where they are in relationship to goal and what action they need to take to get back on goal. So you can see mindset shift and system shift. You see how they work hand in hand?
Yeah.
They really do. And this is the value that Jim Collins was trying to teach us. When we have a focus, when we have something that we're all going for, then all of our effort is like this streamlined, elegant effort going towards the same thing. So it takes less effort, it's way more satisfying, and we're way more productive. So it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I love how you explained and touched that question, and with so much of I think there's so much of nuggets shared in just that piece of a question we just went through. So for a dentist listening today who feels stuck, what is the first step they should start breaking free?
I think that's awesome, because that clarity leads you to great things, right? When you take one step, it's like one action step. So I would recommend they start with one wildly important goal. And here's the question, and I'm going to say it twice, Lester. If everything stayed the same, what one change would you make that would make the biggest impact? So look at the whole practice. If everything stayed the same, what one change would you make that would make the biggest impact? So we have a formula for this. Like if you're at X on that and you want to go to Y, it's by when. So it's from X to Y by when. A lot of the time we support our doctors in having an hourly production goal. And so it really is from this production goal to that production goal by when. And when we align our team, so then that's the next piece of it, align the team around that one wildly important goal, identify a couple things for each team member, and then start tracking it weekly. So it is a simple system. And, the message here is don't try to fix everything, focus on one thing and create some momentum. And the first step isn't really dropping insurance. It's deciding what winning looks like for you right now.
Amazing. So, Melinda, I know listeners listening to this episode will have a lot of questions. They might want even to get in touch with you, and they might also want to, just share the experience and get firsthand coaching or even understanding of what they should be doing. So, what is the best way that they can reach out to you and have a open mind chat?
Yeah, beautiful. We'll put it in the show notes. My name is Melinda at melindahereford.com. That's a great way to reach me. Also, you could go on our website, practicemanagementconsulting.com, and there's a link there. I also want to offer your listeners our 10-step scheduling audit. And the beauty of that is once you take it, it really assesses one or two things you can make a change to, which is exactly what we're talking about here. It does start with the schedule. And when our schedule's more effective, our life is way more satisfying.
Amazing. So, of course, to anyone listening in, the show note, the information will be on the show notes, and also the 10-step scheduling guide will also be there, so you can take benefit of it. So, Melinda, thank you for such an honest and insightful conversation.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure being here. And really, I want to encourage all the dentists to go back to build value and stick with the dentistry and stay focused on the dentistry and the conditions. I think this is just an opportunity at this time in dentistry for us to get back to dentistry and talking to patients about conditions and what's possible for them for full oral health. So I love that you're doing this. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So the key takeaway from today is this: dentists are not stuck because of insurance. They're stuck because of patterns, mindset, and systems that can be changed. So once those change, everything else follows. If today's episode got you thinking about what's possible for your practice, here are 2 simple next steps. First off, if you want to bring in better patients and rely less on insurance, schedule a marketing strategy meeting with Ekwa at lessinsurancedependence.com. And secondly, if you're looking for mentorship and you want a clear roadmap to build a practice that gives you more freedom, you can connect with Gary Takas for coaching, and that is at coaching for thrivingdentist.com. And all these are all complimentary, just like what Melinda shared as well. So you can go to the show notes and get these all for yourself and make benefit of these. So these are all great starting points if you are stuck. And if this episode helped you, share it with a colleague who might also need to hear this and make benefit of it. So thank you for listening in. We'll see you in the next episode of the Less Insurance Dependence podcast.